On a quiet Tuesday night, two friends sitting on a couch, watching TV, one of them gets up and go the kitchen. For a while, the other friend thinks he disappeared. He go out to find him. He finds him in the kitchen. And then the question arises, what if all humans
It's a thought
extinct?
experiment that has captivated imaginations for decades. The sudden absence of 7 billion complex beings from a planet shaped entirely by their presence. Forget the dramatic alien invasion or the cataclysmic disaster for a moment. Imagine a silent Tuesday afternoon, and then silence. The first few hours wouldn't be dramatic. No explosions or sudden collapses. It would be a cascade of quiet failures. Power grids would flicker and tear themselves apart as systems that once relied on a million small adjustments suddenly had no one to guide them. Within a few days, the streetlights and cityscapes would go completely dark. Our most complex technologies would become monuments to our absence. The internet, our great library of all human knowledge, would be lost in just weeks as the servers went dead. 100,000 years of progress, all gone without a single keystroke. But it's not just our technology that would fail. Without us to pump water, subways and tunnels would flood. Fires would rage unchecked in cities and forests. And while some domesticated animals would perish, others would adapt, turning the very suburbs we built into their hunting ground. With our sudden absence, the planet would begin to exhale. The sound of our machines would be replaced by the quiet hum of a world healing. It would start subtly, with weeds cracking through asphalt and vines weaving their way up the sides of buildings. Within a few decades, our manicured parks would become forests, and wild animals, once relegated to the wilderness, would reclaim our suburbs as their own. Cities would become jungles. The concrete and steel we laid down would crack and crumble under the pressure of roots and the relentless force of rain. Pigeons and squirrels would be replaced by more dominant species. The world would shift from our dominion to nature's, leaving a silent green testament to our fleeting time on Earth. As the centuries passed, our grandest creations would prove to be surprisingly fragile. The steel that made up our modern world would begin to rust, and the concrete would crack from 1,000 small freezes and thaws. Without constant maintenance, the grand towers of our cities would become skeletal monuments, their glass falling like tears onto the streets below. Our symbols of power would not last. The bridges we built to connect us would suffer a slow, inevitable collapse, their rusted cables snapping one by one until the entire structure crumbles into the water below. Our subways, once a labyrinth of human movement, would become silent, flooded tunnels, ghosts of a city that once was. Even the emblems of our civilization would not be immune. The great statues we carved from marble and stone would be slowly worn down by the wind and the rain. Their smooth surfaces would be pitted and stained, their faces erased, and their proud forms would simply return to the earth they came from, leaving only a hint of the history they once held. With our physical selves gone, the ghosts of our digital lives would linger for a time. 1 billion websites, 1 trillion photos, and every message ever sent, all held in a silent, fragile web of servers. But as the power grids failed and the cooling systems ceased, those glowing libraries of our history would simply overheat and die, erasing our memory in a silent electronic flicker. Our technological monuments, the phones in our pockets and the computers on our desks, would become hollow shells. Their batteries would drain, their circuits would corrode, and their polished surfaces would gather dust. They would remain as lifeless artifacts, containing data that can never again be accessed. Yet, there would be whispers. Small, self-contained AI systems, powered by long-lasting batteries or solar panels, would continue their quiet, programmed tasks. A lone traffic AI might keep a single intersection running perfectly for a few years. Or a smart speaker in a low corner, a single blue light in a darkened home, might still be waiting for a voice that will never return. A quiet monument to a question we asked that Tuesday afternoon. 1,000 years pass, and then 10,000. The great monuments of our civilization have turned to dust. The cities are nothing but gentle hills, covered in a new layer of soil and trees. Yet the story of humanity is not entirely gone. It is simply written in a different form. Our legacy would not be the grand monuments we built, but a strange new layer of Earth itself, a layer of our garbage, our plastic, our concrete, and our nuclear waste. This strange new stratum would be our final mark on the planet, a permanent and visible whisper of our brief, powerful reign. Long after the last echoes of our civilization fade, this layer would remain, telling a future civilization or a new form of life that something intelligent, something strange, and something very destructive once walked this. Our story isn't one of grand monuments that last forever. It's a fleeting moment in the long, beautiful life of the planet. And in the absence of our noise, our conflict, and our constant presence, the planet would simply turn the page, burying our memory under a fresh blanket of soil, a final beautiful burial. But perhaps the most profound part of this story isn't the decay, but the resilience. The lesson isn't about what we lost, but about what Earth gained. A new kind of life, a new kind of silence, and a new kind of peace. And so, the question that began in a dimly lit living room, a simple thought experiment, leaves us with a quiet challenge: to appreciate the world not for what it does for us, but for what it is. To remember that our time here is a gift and a responsibility, a fleeting moment in the long, beautiful story of the planet itself.